Is it recording now?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, it doesn't matter. I'm cutting it out. So.
Sorry.
One more burp. All right. I'm ready.
All right. It's Izzy and Aaron.
Hello and welcome to the Cats and Books Club podcast.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
We finally finished A Court of Thorns and Roses.
No spoilers in the comments for us, please.
We've only read the first one.
Yep.
I mean, I've read up to the third one, but Aaron's only read the first one.
Yes. So
There are spoilers in this for the first book. So if you do not want to be spoiled, don't listen to this until you've read A Court of Thorns and Roses. Thrones and Roses. Anyway, Thorns and Roses. A throat of thorns and roses. So, we are trying a different method. We're really doing in-depth literary analysis this time around.
Yeah, and we're really trying, it's kind of been a trial and error with this podcast. And I think with each video, we do get better, though. So that's a good thing.
Only after a little bit yelling at each other. It's fine. Everything is fine. So, to start, A Court of Thorns and A Court... ACOTAR.
A Court of Thorns.
Thrones.
And
Only Thrones.
Only Thrones.
All right. I'm shutting up. So, this story, Aaron, how would you describe the story in like 3 seconds what this is about? Oh my god.
Okay, so
there's a human girl named Farah.
And she meets a guy at the end, and it's kind of reminiscent of a lot of fairy tales, really. But Beauty and the Beast, of course, obviously influenced this a lot.
Yeah, her take was like Beauty and the Beast, but then also if the Beast was a sexy guy who's also I don't know,
Faye.
He's like kind of boring, honestly.
To be honest, so to kind of...
Tamlin is the name of the Beast character. He's the High Lord of the
Spring Court.
Spring Court. There are lots of different courts, and they're separated from the human world by a big wall.
Yeah, I will say something that I can say as I'm going into this
You'll say
series.
something as you can say.
As I'm going into this series, I will say one of my initial thoughts was that I feel like the characters are a little bit more developed than the characters we met in Throne of Glass.
Okay, yeah, true.
So that I can say...
It's much better.
Yes.
This series is arguably much less terrible to read than Throne of Glass. And I think the plot at least switches it up enough that it keeps me entertained, if nothing else. Like, I was entertained. I mean, I'm reading up to the third book. I'm like, all right, let's see what's going on here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, overall, I mean, I would say so far, A Court of Thorns and Roses is, like, boring compared to the second in the series. A Court of what? Mist and Fire? I don't know.
Mist and Fury.
Mist and Fire is what I thought it was. Oh my god, whatever. Anyway, but so we want to start by talking about the like world building here for this. So we already mentioned that it's like the interaction between the humans and the Fae. The land of the Fae is, I guess, called Prithian, which is interesting because it's another way of... Basically, it's like one of the old names, or reminiscent of one of the old names of England. So, and the map of ACOTAR looks like England, and Highburn basically represents Ireland, and it looks like Ireland. It's kind of funny because there are 7 courts in the Fae Kingdom with 7 different High Lords, and there were 7 kingdoms in Britain. Yeah, around like the 500 something year. So I'm thinking that was like a kind of a direct translation of, okay, this is about England. And it was really funny. I was reading on some of the Reddit subs about how people were talking about if like all the geographic areas of all the kingdoms matched with like the accents in the UK right now, what accent would each of the characters have?
That is kind of funny.
And I want to like explore that more because that's really funny. So if and when we find the TikToks where people are doing the accents and reading out some of the script, I will put them up somewhere because I crave this content. What's interesting is the northern kingdoms. It was like the time of day ones represent Scotland, and then the other ones that are like the seasons represent the part that's England or something.
Okay.
So I thought that was kind of cool. Let's see. The thing that's kind of problematic about this is that in this story, the analog for Ireland ends up being the bad guys.
The Spring Court, right?
No, Highburn.
Highburn. Oh. Sorry.
Yeah. Highburn is spun as like the uber mastermind behind that, like Amarantha, the evil queen, is like working with Highburn to take over Britain and blah blah blah. Which in real history, it was the opposite. England was taking over Ireland, not vice versa. So that's kind of a strange choice on her part, and I'm wondering if it was just random or if there's maybe a little bit more invested in that when it comes to colonialism, because as we've seen in Throne of Glass, the spin is pretty pro-colonialism, which is disturbing to me. And so this kind of feeds into that narrative of like, actually, I think Sarah J. Maas like thinks colonialism is good.
Yeah, and there's a lot to support that, even just about her person, that I'm not going to get into right now.
Right. I mean, she bought housing in Hawaii when all of the native Hawaiians are like, do not buy a house in Hawaii, we have nowhere to live.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's real. Yep. Yeah. So all of our dollars for buying her shit is being put into paying for a house in Hawaii. So we can all feel good about that. Anyway.
Anywho.
The main characters. We have Feyre is the main character. Apparently she's 19. She's like basically a Katniss Everdeen analog. She kind of cut and pasted that bitch.
Yeah, she kind of... I will say I was getting very much Katniss Everdeen vibes.
She's a hunter. She has to go kill things for the family. Like, her family used to be rich, and then her dad made a bad investment, and then her dad, I don't even think he has a name. Like, she never named him. It's just, like, her dad. And
yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember a name. If there was a name, someone put that in the comments.
I didn't see anything.
Jeez.
But yeah, like... Basically, she and all her sisters are salty about her dad being disabled because he got attacked by moneylenders or whatever, investors, and basically his leg got busted and he's permanently disabled. And then they're all like, I can't believe he isn't working to support us. And it's that we're going to get into that ableist shit soon. But the backstory is... she's the only one, and what's stupid is she's the youngest in the family, apparently. She has 2 sisters. You have Nesta, who's a huge bitch. Actually, I still hate her. Like, she sucks.
I was going to say,
She comes into the story later, but she sucks.
And I know that there are later books where Nesta is supposed to have, like, kind of a redemption arc. So I'm kind of interested to see what she does with that. And I will say that I am not dismissing... like, I get that all 3 girls have trauma. And I guess maybe what...
yeah, but they're spoiled fucks.
But, hold on. I think what maybe Sarah J. Maas was trying to display was we have 3 young women who were all dealing with their trauma differently. I'm not saying that they're dealing with it right. I'm just saying I think maybe that's what she might have been trying to display. How sometimes when some people have trauma, maybe they kind of get quiet and kind of inward and like Elaine. And sometimes you have the opposite, where you have someone who goes through trauma and she's like Nesta, she's just so angry and she's so hurt that she's lashing out at people, including the people who love her most.
I kind of think she's been like that her whole life, though.
Yes.
Also, it just seems weird that, like, and according to the backstory, like, Feyre's mom was like, Feyre, you're the only one who can help them. Make sure you take care of the family. I'm like, why are you calling on the youngest
Yeah, that
child
was a
to
little
do that?
weird.
Doesn't mean, this whole time I read the book, I thought she was the oldest. And then I'm like, wait, she's the youngest? Why the fuck is all the burden fell on her? Why isn't Nest out there hunting? Why isn't Elaine out there doing shit? Why is it her? I still don't know. Nobody said anything. It was like, just because mom said I need to do it. Like, why did she say that?
I will say another thing, I can see a little note here you have is, so, yes, we have Feyre, who cannot read. But at one time, they were rich. And typically, in rich households, if we're looking at this from, this is kind of like Middle Age-esque Europe, typically, I feel like if you had wealth, you would have been taught how to read. Now, that being said, maybe women wouldn't have been taught to read, so maybe that's the spin that she's trying to display there. Maybe.
Yeah, the explanation in the book is that her mom, like, didn't feel like hiring a governess.
Which, by the way,
doesn't make sense.
Bullcrap.
That's
bullcrap.
I don't buy it.
Now, that being said...
But, like, why was it so important for this character to not know how to read, right? What was the reason for her... And was it just so that there could be, like, some cute flirting with the the fae? We're like, oh, I'll teach you how to read. I gotta teach you how to read. Let me be patronizing to you because you don't know how to read. And it's like, whatever. It just doesn't... But, like, the whole crux of that, plot for Under the Mountain had to do with her not being able to read the riddle. But then that didn't even matter because even if she could read it, she wouldn't have known the answer anyway.
Sorry.
So, like, this was literally
funny.
everything about her not being able to read is fucking stupid, and I think that was a waste of my life. So, whatever. It's fine.
So, to go back to the father character, we have a character who is depressed. He's been disabled. There's a lot of comments from maybe not Elaine, but especially...
It's literally mostly Nesta and Feyre.
And talking about him being a burden on the family. They kind of cast him like he's selfish, he's unaware of anything anyone is doing.
Like, he doesn't care how much they are suffering.
Like, he's numb and dead to his surroundings. Like, we've got some ableism there, and this is something that we saw in Throne of Glass with Kale's character. So I'm, looking at this as an overall issue from one series.
In Sarah J. Maas books specifically.
Right. If I'm looking at this overall, I've got 2 series now where we're being ableist, and I'm like,
Well, and then they keep going on and on about how he's wasting his time making, like, stuff to sell at the market. And it's like, that's literally the only thing he can do. And he's busting his ass to even get to the fucking market when mobility is impossible for him. And they aren't giving him any credit at all. And here's what's interesting, is they don't give Feyre any credit either.
No, they don't.
Nobody gives anybody... They are all busting ass, and nobody gives a shit in this family. Like, everybody's taking each other for granted and treating them like shit. So, like, this is actually a pretty abusive family dynamic.
Yeah. And I even wrote this in my own
Nesta.
notes.
Nesta's the fucking abuser.
Yeah.
She's a fucking asshole. I hate her.
Well, what's funny is I wrote a note where, like, they were chopping wood. And Elaine was chopping wood. Like, Elaine and Feyre were both chopping wood.
Yeah, Elaine's fine. We like her. Nesta sucks.
And Nesta didn't chop wood like she was supposed to. The one thing she was supposed to do, right?
Literally, you had one job.
Like, here Feyre is going out, and she's hunting, and she's going out in the snow, and she's,
like, they're
bringing
trying
back food.
to make us hate her. And, okay, you win. But then if later... She's supposed to be a protagonist. I'm like, I I don't care.
We'll see.
I'm not.
We'll see. I don't know.
care.
We'll see.
I'm betting money dollars that I'm going to continue to hate her. I don't care what anybody says. Excuse me.
And then...
Anyway, as for the Fae, we have... Tamlin is sort of the main love interest of this book. He's like the beast character in the Beauty and the Beast sort of, I don't know, allegory, is that the word? Whatever.
Parallel.
Whatever, I don't know. He's, okay, so the thing about this Fae court, right, this is what court was it?
This is autumn.
Spring? No.
Autumn. Or spring, fuck.
Yeah, it was the Spring Court. That Tamlin is the High Lord of the Spring Court. So there's hierarchy in the Fae. You have the High Lords and then the lesser shitty lords, who are treated basically like second-class citizens. Or like serfs or something. I don't know. It's like very like, what do you call that?
It's very
like
European.
Middle ages, like...
Mid-class serfs.
All the peasants have to like pay him a bunch of shit, even though they have nothing. Whatever. Like what's interesting is he is obviously a very white blonde, like Aryan looking dude, and his buddy, like sort of co-homie, is Lucian, who is interesting because apparently. He is a person of color and a redhead. And so you have this blonde guy, and then Alice, Tamlin's maid, is also a person of color. And her skin is described as like tree bark.
I didn't pick up...
Which is bizarre.
I will say I didn't pick up that Alice was supposed to be a person of color, and I will tell you why. Because I thought... the tree bark skin was like a fae thing. Like, you know how like different fae have like, they kind of look like trees or they might blend into like nature. Mm-hmm. So, if you people listening out there, if you kind of understand that more, or if you are a person of color and you have thoughts on that, we would love that. Like we would love discussion on what you feel and what you think. Because
I'm kind of uncomfortable with the fact that Alice is like a servant to Tamlin.
Yeah. And
Lucian is also kind of like
servant-ish.
I mean, they're like friends, but he kind of has to listen to him.
Yeah.
Like, because Tamlin's the High Lord. Everybody's got to do what he says. And Tamlin has the emotion regulation of a fucking
5-year-old
piece of lint on the floor.
So, and then we get to Amarantha, and her backstory is kind of strange. Like, there was this guy who used her sister and then got with her and then killed her. So Amarantha got his ass. And then,
I love how you're just reading my notes out loud.
Well, but it's true, though, because then Amarantha, like, she got mad and she stole his finger bone and his eye and she tortured him. Again, here we go. Again.
Torture.
Again with the torture. We had the same issue in Throne of Glass, I'm just saying. Now she, like, Amarantha uses her magic power to control others. So, again...
Like, she made some bargain and, like, tricked them into giving up their power, which I'm like, how did... I, like, don't remember how that happened, but... Anyway, she's doing a lot of conniving. It's more like sort of evil woman themes, like, because in Throne of Glass, she's basically Maeve 2.0.
Yeah, actually, yeah, she is. She's like Maeve.
So there's a lot of, like, and she isn't even that old. She's a young, because at first I thought it was like the sort of old evil woman, like, trope.
She's supposed to be young.
I mean, she's a fae, so she's immortal. But anyway, she basically stole everyone's magic powers, including Tamlin, so they're all weaker than they should be, even though they're still so strong. And I'm pretty sure they could have killed her so many times, even with the limited power that they did have, but don't worry about that. It's because it doesn't matter, because that's not what the story is about. I just don't understand how they just, like, let themselves be, like, tortured by this lady.
And then we meet Rhysand, who is the High Lord of the Night Court. and he is forced to kind of be Amarantha's sex slave.
Right.
Which also,
But
here
everyone-
we go, we've got another problematic sort of
There's lots of like
dynamic here.
so many characters that are like forced to be a sex slave. Oh, I was supposed to because we have like at least a couple of those in Throne of Glass too, right? We had Lysandra, who was Erobin's like concubine essentially, and basically it's like because his dad like killed Tamlin's family. Was that why? No, that's just why Tamlin doesn't like him.
That's just why Tamlin doesn't like him. But yeah, like
she was like trying to make Tamlin jealous or something. I don't know.
She's basically trying to make Tamlin jealous a lot of the time. And
it doesn't work because Tamlin hates her ass. So like,
yeah.
I don't know. But she wants to fuck Tamlin. So she doesn't really have direct control over him, but somehow she has control over Rhysand, and I don't know how that works exactly.
And something, so here's my problem.
But anyway, he's supposed to be like the second, like, new protagonist.
Okay, so here is my problem. Because obviously, I'm kind of the one who had heard all about this series. And I know, obviously spoilers, like, I obviously know that Rhysand and Feyre are supposed to be like endgame. Here's my problem. And this has been a problem. This is a problem that I had with Throne of Glass, and I have a problem with it now. There's this whole scene where Feyre drinks Fey wine, and then he
like after she ends up in
just
Tamlin's court because of the blah blah, the agreement broken, blah blah blah, you gotta live here to repay your debt. She moves in there, and then like Rhysand, basically they capture Tamlin, Amarantha captures Tamlin, and Rhysand is like, oh, I gotta make an agreement with Feyre and
it'll save
her life because she's busted up from this first task she has to do, because Amarantha sets up a bunch of stupid tasks to try and kill her instead of just fucking killing her. But no, she has to do 3 tasks.
But like my thing is,
but anyway, yeah,
I know what maybe she was trying to do with like the enemies to lovers trope. My problem with that is that I don't feel that this is a true enemies to lovers, because I don't know.
It's kind of like coercion.
Yeah.
Like
she
went from one shitty daddy to another like questionable daddy.
Like, I feel like both men, Rhysand and Tamlin, like, I don't really like either one of them, and I really wasn't rooting for either one of them. The only one I really was rooting for was Lucian.
Yeah,
and I don't even mean like for him to romantically get with Feyre. I just saw him. Yeah, because he was positive.
He's a good character.
Like, he was good, and he was
real.
positive,
yeah.
And he was kind to Feyre, and he was trying to help her adjust to the court life,
right?
And even helps her during the tasks that she has to do.
That's true.
Because of this evil queen. Like, he puts his own crap on the line, his own life on the line to try and help her.
Right. He visits her in the cell. Somehow he was able to just run around, I guess. And like basically ends up being restricted, which is when Rhysand kind of comes in with this opportunity to like he's supposedly helping Feyre, but pretending he's taking advantage of her because it's like his cover, quote unquote, for Amarantha not to suspect that he actually is helping her. So he's like, I'm keeping you as my pet, and he's like, drink this fairy wine and dance for me. And like basically, I don't know, the scene where he makes the agreement with Feyre being like, you need to spend a week with me a month as a bargain in return for me saving your life. He kind of like threatens her with the broken arm that she has and like twists it to get her to agree with him.
I freaking hated that.
And that sucked. And
I
we were like,
hated that. Again, my problem.
He really didn't need to do that.
No. And here's my problem. Again, this was my problem with Throne of Glass, and it's my problem with this series. You have two characters that are supposed to romantically end up together. And they're doing things, not Feyre really, but Rhysand is doing things to Feyre that, quite frankly, I don't care if it's an enemies to lovers trope. I don't care if the character's supposed to be morally gray. You can write a morally gray character and not have them doing those things to the love interest that they are supposed to end up with. That's where I have the problem. I've read plenty of books. Hell, I've even written a book where there is a morally gray character, but he's not doing those things. Like, you can have a morally gray character, and I've read other books with that trope, but they, like, worship the ground that their partner walks on.
So, like why do you think she chose this? Is it because there's, like, part of the fantasy of being like, oh, it is me, captured Jasmine, I dance for you, Jafar? Like, is that the fantasy here? What is the reason you think that she wrote? Because she wanted to throw off the reader, but unfortunately she threw off the reader for the entire series. It's kind of hard to redeem someone who is like, well, I had to make it convincing that we were enemies, and it's like, okay, here's the thing.
But you could have done that without him, like, screwing with a broken arm. Physically hurting her, getting her drunk, like, kind of low-key threatening her. I just really have a problem. And I will be quite honest, when I got to that part with the fairy wine and the arm and stuff, I literally texted Iz and I was like, I know I'm the one that suggested we read this series. I mean, we are going to continue, but we're taking breaks in between each book. But I was like, legit, like, I went into this series, like, really excited because, you know, here we've got this series that's very hyped up. It's very popular. Yeah. Very overhyped. I'm sorry. Over freaking hyped, people. There are different authors. Please choose one.
There's literally fan fiction.
Like,
that's better. This is what Mom says, too. She's like, why are you reading this garbage?
My thing is... I think my thing is...
Also, hi, Mom. I know you're listening.
I really want to know, because I want to know how people read this first book and went, wow, I really want her to end up with him. Because, quite frankly, I even, like, messaged Iz and I said, Iz, I don't know that I can continue with this series, because in my brain I'm thinking, so she's supposed to get with him. She's supposed to get with him.
What the fuck? I hate this.
What is happening right now? And honestly, that arm scene where he's like twisting her broken arm, that really disturbed me. And
we didn't like it. We didn't like it.
Like, quite frankly, it should disturb you all too. Like, you should be.
Yeah, don't end up with a man who twists your broken arm.
My God.
Maybe, even as a cover.
It's
kind of gross.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I have a problem with it. We are going to continue the series, but I'm just like...
Yeah, proceed with caution for those of you who have had trauma that was, you know, of similar natures, or even not, because it's kind of fucked up to read.
It really is.
Anyway, we wanted to go into, because kind of some of the characters were already leading us into, like, what other stories this reminded us of, so, like, very obvious influences here. So apparently A Court of Thorns and Roses was published in 2015, and we definitely saw Hunger Games references, and Hunger Games was published September 2008, so definitely you have at least 7 years, right, for her to be influenced by Hunger Games, so, like, definitely you can see that there. And Twilight also has a lot of shit, like the kind of evil guy who, or, you know, what's his ass? Fucking Edward. The problematic guy, but he loves her. Yeah. Oh, and then he's everything, and he's hot. He's problematic, but he's so hot. And it's just like, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Like, Twilight was problematic, and so is this. So, you can tell she read that. But then also, there's so much just, like, Game of Thrones, like, copy-paste like ideas wise, that's okay. Not so much because I haven't even read Game of Thrones, but I think if I did, I would find a lot more. Like,
Oh, I would say it's similar, but I would say that his series is a lot more epic fantasy.
well, I think she was trying for that though,
Yeah, well, yeah, I suppose.
because she adds a lot of the mythology. A lot of the plots in her books are kind of borrowed from, like, Irish and probably Scottish mythology. I don't know. Definitely Irish mythology, UK or English mythology. And so is Game of Thrones. And Game of Thrones, I didn't realize it was published so long ago.
Oh, yeah.
1996.
The first book.
The first book. Which is just wild to me. So she could have grown up reading this. Like, honestly. Like Game of Thrones. I don't know if she did. But anyway. The associations with Hunger Games, we've already, discussed that Feyre is very much like Katniss. She's got the bow and arrow. She has to support the family. They're living in a shed. They're starving to death. Being committed to her family. She has to self-sacrifice all the time.
I will say something that I picked up on that's kind of like Hunger Games. But I would argue that Katniss is way more traumatized than Feyre.
Sure.
That whole situation is way more traumatizing. But
it's
anyway,
a little more
it's a little bit more, yeah.
Whereas here, there's just like this big wall, and like the Fae are the enemy of the people. You can hear that too.
But something that I picked up on. So Katniss kind of had the same feelings towards her mother that Feyre and Nesta do towards their father. Because now she wasn't like physically disabled. The mother could still work and do things. But Katniss kind of had this resentment towards her mother because after the father died, her mother kind of shuts down mentally and stops taking care of her little sister and her. So I did pick up on a little bit of that same sort of...
like the family dynamic. That leads to, the main character basically being a kid having to pick up the slack.
Mm-hmm.
Which is sort of, I guess it's set up to make her, be a badass heroine because she's already so independent, but actually, it was forced on her. And, that doesn't make you just automatically really good at everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think, the political situation between the Hunger Games or comparing Hunger Games with ACOTAR is that the Fae represent, the city people. They're, the super privileged overlords who control everything and, but they don't, really directly impact Feyre's life until the wolf comes through the wall and she kills it.
Mm-hmm.
And, breaks the treaty or whatever. The other influence, definitely, we've got Beauty and the Beast. All the people in the Spring Court have these masks on them. Do all the people in all the courts have the mask? No, just Spring Court.
Just the Spring Court.
Because of the curse. Because the curse that Amarantha put, which Amarantha's the evil queen, Fae queen. And basically, we find out that, through all these weird, conditions for Tamlin to be able to break this curse. It has to be a human girl who hates you to say she loves you, and then some other shit. Basically, trying to make it impossible. But so he's trying to find a girl to break the spell. And so he's trying to get her to love him, but he also knows it's not going to work, and he starts kind of giving up halfway through. What I don't understand is how Tamlin is shown as being so powerful and, fighting all these other, mythical creatures in the forest and shit. And yet he's still not powerful enough to beat Amarantha. all she does the whole time is just fucking sit there and tell other people what to do. You don't
That
really
is
see
true.
her show any, like, does she even have power?
Oh, she does. I mean, she's Fae, but...
Right, but we don't actually, maybe we do see her using it. I don't know, I never saw her use it. It was just like, oh, I have you in a trap here, now you're in a box and it's going to squish you, ha ha ha. It's like, what the hell? This is so stupid. Like, you could just leave. I don't know, all these people could just fucking leave. Anyway, I think Alice, the maid, is based on Mrs. Potts. I think Lucien is supposed to be Lumiere. I mean, their names sound the same, and he has red hair. So, that's interesting. But, is Lucien, like, not High Fae?
He's not a High Lord.
Well, he's not a High Lord, but is he High Fae? Does he have powers? I don't remember.
Yeah, he has power.
What does he have?
Like, I think it's, like, minimal power, though, because of the curse.
Oh, yeah. He also has a weird eye. Like, his eye got fucked up, and then now there's a robot eye.
Yeah, that was actually kind of
So
interesting.
that's kind of cool. But then there were two weird eye references, because there's that, and then Amarantha also has the eye of the, I don't know, what's his fucking name? The guy.
I know what you're talking
The
about.
guy,
Yeah,
the
there's like
other
another
guy
eye that she took
like,
from
her
someone
backstory's
else, and like
weird.
it's
She
very
like took
strange.
an eye and a knuckle bone from a guy, so it keeps him alive. And it was the guy that was like,
It's like he's trapped within a ring, so he can see everything that's like going on, but he can't do anything about it. So it's just another way to torture somebody.
we love torture.
Ugh.
Fun. It's really fun to read about torture.
Anyway, other influences based on what other people, like in other
Yeah, I did
chat
some research
rooms.
on Reddit to see what else people have come up with, and apparently Sarah J. Maas has acknowledged that the Black Cauldron was a big influence on her. I don't know. Do you see any influences on this book specifically from? Well,
So I haven't actually read the Black Cauldron books. I've only
haven't
seen the
either.
Black Cauldron movie.
I guess we gotta put that on the list.
The Black Jewels series,
which we also haven't read
I've
that.
never even heard of that, so that's kind of interesting.
Apparently she borrowed a lot from that series. So I'm curious to see what she took from there. Garth Nix's series. I don't remember what those are. I haven't looked them up. I should have looked them up. Anyway. Apparently the story between Feyre and Rysand, like the romance there, is based on Hades and Persephone. Which is kind of interesting to me.
That is kind of interesting.
Because it's the whole like, oh, I can only have you for some time, and then I keep you in my house, and then I release you back to the upper world to see your people.
Yeah,
So
actually.
like at the beginning, like you definitely see that because he's like, oh, I'm borrowing you for a week. And then her sisters were definitely based on Cinderella. That much was pretty obvious. But then she like changed it later. But I think at first that was what she was going for. Which is why it's like trying to make them sympathetic is kind of stupid when you really cast them as like big assholes.
So some of the reoccurring themes that we are seeing, we've got an evil older woman wanting to take men as sex slaves.
Which we have, you know, both in Throne of Glass and in this series.
We've got a younger protagonist who's the center of attention, isolated by her own gender and failed by the older women in her life who were upper class, like her mom and Amarantha.
Yeah, I mean, Amarantha isn't that much older, but she is technically older by a lot because she's Fae.
Right.
And then in Throne of Glass, you've got like no mother figures at all for Selena. Like at all. And she doesn't even have any friends that are girls. And both of these people
she kind of does, but
friends.
not really.
Well, because she
Like,
makes her
not
first
really.
friend, her first female friend, after she starts in like the second book.
That's true.
But I'm wondering, what is it about that's probably part of the fantasy, right? Oh, all these boys love me, but I just want a friend who isn't trying to fuck me all the time. Oh, woe is me.
Yeah, that sort of trope, I think, gets old fast.
Yeah, like her only real like ally at the beginning when she's in Tamlin's house is Alice. which is also kind of weird because, like, she's in a, like, Feyre is in a position of power over Alice because Alice is her, like, servant, essentially. So, she's hired help, she's a mother figure, she's loyal to the house, but it's like, man, I'm getting such strong, like, vibes from that.
Yeah, it's...
uncomfortable.
Yeah, more uncomfortableness. Let's see.
But there's a lot of, like, women being pitted against each other in her series, which is not feminist.
Yeah,
Like,
it's kind of funny, because I think what I also find interesting is that a lot of times these novels are kind of touted as, ooh, these are such good feminist books.
Strong women.
And I'm like, a strong woman character does not equate a feminist book.
Right.
Because you can have a strong female character that's problematic.
Or, like, falls into all the same traps that normal misogynistic shit falls into.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh yeah, like, the whole, like, she throws her friend's name out when they were like, what's your name? And she says Claire, which is somebody she knows from home. And basically, because she tells the wrong name, that girl ends up getting killed and, like, tortured and whatever. And then she feels bad because they were trying to kill and torture her instead. And there's just so much, like, women being pitted against each other. Like, you have to throw somebody else under the bus in order to keep yourself safe. Which is, like, it's just, like, such a strange choice to me.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, her sisters are throwing her under the bus.
Yep.
Or by her, I mean Feyre. Feyre's sisters throwing her under the bus. Amarantha throwing her under the bus.
Yep.
Like, you literally every female character except for Alice is throwing that bitch under the bus.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think it's just, I think the trope is just kind of old. I'm sorry, but it's, I don't know why, but I feel like there was for a while, like, several books that came out kind of around the same time that had, quote, strong female characters, when really that strong female character wasn't really strong. She was just mean.
Good. I'm glad the next door neighbor's vacuuming. That's really good. Aren't we glad? Anyway.
Sorry, guys.
Whatever. Well, the interesting thing that Sarah J. Maas always does is, like basically treating boyfriends like fast fashion. Every book is a different fucking boyfriend. Now, I don't know if she changes that in ACOTAR. I don't think she's supposed to. But, like, in Throne of Glass, she had a new boyfriend every book. And I was so angry and annoyed.
Yeah, because then you find it very hard to root.
It's a waste of my fucking time.
Yeah, it's kind of...
Like, stop playing with my shit and then throwing the man in the trash for a new one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about the new one. The old one was fine.
The old one was fine.
Honestly, in Throne of Glass, she had... Dorian was a perfectly good man, and she threw his ass in the trash.
Then she went to Kale,
and
which I never understood that attraction, actually.
He's whatever.
That I never got. No, I really didn't. I never got, like,
he's
why
deep
are we...
and sensitive. Quote, unquote.
I don't know. Anyway,
But then
guys.
she goes for a fucking raging asshole.
Yes! Like, that is
What,
like...
this is the final form?
I cannot!
This fucking jerk?
You could have had Dorian, and you pick... Ugh.
Yeah, he sucks.
Ugh. You picked
like,
Rowan?
I am mad, this is my mate, bash the chest, like, whatever.
Actually, you know who she really should have ended up with, guys? She really should have ended up with, It'll Come to Me. The shifter that turned into the wolf.
Oh, yeah, what's his head? Anyway.
I really liked him.
We're not talking about that book.
Sorry, she should have ended up with him, the end. They should have fallen in love while he was
Trauma bonding, you know.
Exactly. Anyway, sorry, guys.
Well, so I think like Tamlin in this story represents the sort of, again, like the Twilight phenomena, the emotionally unavailable, like toxic masculinity, wants to be kind of controlling and is like mad about how he like I must protect you, but then like stifles the shit out of her while trying to protect her, like, and she's like constantly just like, please show me you love me back, and then he like kind of does, but like he's bad at it because he doesn't know how to flirt and stuff, and that's supposed to be funny, but it's just kind of pathetic. And like the power imbalance is just so much because like he basically like pays for her family to come out of debt. And then she's like, oh, I can never repay you, even though she's literally his prisoner. And then, like, she just went to save him. She's like, what am I going to do at home? They don't want me. They're fine without me, so I'm just going to go. But
I'm
like,
gonna go back to the boy.
Here's the thing. If they were all captured, who the fuck is still paying the bill for her family?
Yeah, it was very
That doesn't make sense to me.
unclear about what. I don't know.
Whatever. But basically, that storyline of like them being captured by Amarantha and all the tasks under the mountain and blah 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 was based on the story of Tam Lin, which is an Irish folk tale where like there's a human boy in the forest and like the fairy queen captures him to sacrifice, and then like he has a girlfriend who got impregnated by him, and she's like, I'm gonna save you, and then basically she turns him into a bunch of scary stuff, and she just holds on to it because she knows that a man who with true love like can't hurt me, which is of course fake and stupid, but whatever, it's a fairy tale, so cool. So like I guess like that makes sense, but it basically feels like a different book at that point. Like you have this whole like Beauty and the Beast thing, and then suddenly it's something else after they get kidnapped and go to, you know, the underworld essentially, which is kind of, you know, cool because Rysand is down there for a long time, and he's also from Night Court, so like night, underworld, and then that basically I think the cave under the mountain is like a metaphor for hell.
Yeah, I was kind of trying to figure out what she was going for there, but
Because like Amarantha is kind of like a Red Queen copy.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, and like you always kind of imagine hell being underground.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, that's how a lot of religions depict it, is like under.
And all the High Lords are basically considered gods, and they have powers, and they bring her back to life because they give her a piece of their power, because she gets killed, right? So you get killed and you go to hell, but only by the salvation of your own sacrifice can you get resurrected, just like Jesus. She was resurrected and comes out of the tomb after being killed by, like, the Fae. And, of course, when she comes back, she becomes a Fae, because...
We're talking about Feyre, correct?
Yes, Feyre, sorry. Yeah, Feyre gets killed during the whole, 3 tasks shit. I forget, like, Amarantha kills her, because she basically breaks the spell, because she finds out that the answer to the riddle is love, and the riddle is very bad.
I can't even remember the riddle, but...
I should have copied it, but I didn't want to.
That's okay.
Anyway, I guess there's not much else to say about the patriarchy, right? Like, it's kind of
we've
obvious.
covered it.
There's not much more to say. If you read it, you'll find more. It's all, like, hierarchy.
And basically where we end is that after she does the 3 tasks...
Which, again, Hunger Games...
It kind of had some Hunger Games. Yeah, actually... then Feyre breaks the curse and she turns into a Fae, and that's kind of where we leave off at the end of book 1. So, do we want to talk about annoying buzzwords that we heard?
Let's talk about all the annoying words that we're sick of hearing. So, I hate it every time Sarah J. Maas uses the word cringed, breathed, like, he breathed. Every time I hear it, like, And I'm just like, this is so bothering me. Winced. There's lots of wincing. Every man is the most beautiful man she's ever seen. I mean,
Hi,
mates.
Lord.
I hate mates as a concept.
Yeah.
They annoy me. He was a high lord. Oh my god, he was a high lord. As if repeating it 1,000 times is going to make it more significant, which it doesn't. So don't do this if you're a writer. This is annoying. And then it was like spun silk. And then the buttery light. The light's so buttery. It's always buttery. Every light source is butter.
It's butter.
And then
It must be food related.
fast as an asp. Always with the asp.
Well, that's a snake, so
Yeah,
I
but
can
there's
get
so
that.
many other things that are fast.
A cheetah.
Yes, I would have taken that. And then she would never shut up about being able to paint stuff, and I know her art is probably just like
Mid.
stupid.
No offense.
Like, seriously.
So what? Do we want
Eyes
to go?
tightened.
Do we want to go into our ratings of what we would give this out of 10?
Sure.
You want to go first?
Yeah. Yeah, like a 5.
That's what I was going to give it. That's funny. Yeah, because, like, again, we liked certain elements of it. That was fine. But overall,
Like, it held together okay.
It held together.
It was
just,
interesting how she used a lot of mythology in her world building and her stories and her characters. But I feel like she didn't really, like, lean enough into it to make it more... I don't know. Like, it made me like it more knowing that she actually had inspiration from, like, other ancient stories. But yeah, I don't know. It's still kind of annoying to read because her writing style is kind of annoying. Mm-hmm. To me. Not to everybody. You're allowed to like it. It's fine. But I do not like torture as a plot point. I do not like weird assaulty stuff.
Yeah, I really did not like that. I really didn't like that. I'll be honest, it makes it hard to even...
And I don't like being told
yeah.
that someone's a good guy and then suddenly they're not. Because that gives me trust issues.
Yeah, exactly. So, should we tell them what book we're going to be reading next? Like I said, we're going to be taking breaks in between each of these books. So, we're not going straight into the second book here of this.
Yeah.
You want to tell them what we're reading next?
No, you tell them.
Okay. So, if you all remember when we read the book Halfling by S.E. Wendell, and we had that interview with her, and she was really cool and awesome.
We love her.
We love her.
We love you.
Shout out if you can hear
Yeah, definitely
us
go read Halfling.
out there.
It was great.
She just came out with the third book in this series, actually, which we will be reading that as well. But first, we're going to start with the second book in the series that comes after Halfling, and it is called Ironling. So we are so excited to read that and to get into that. So I'm excited for it.
Just in time for January.
Yeah. So I'm going to start reading that tonight, I think.
That's good. I need to get it.
Get my notes. But
yeah.
thank you guys for coming. And
Oh, wait. Before we go, we need to do a cat update.
Oh, yeah.
We
our
saved them
cats.
for last, so it's not right off the gate being, like, annoying.
Let's see.
We're at Aaron's house.
Yes,
right
we
now.
are. Actually, yeah, we're both. This is the second podcast where we've actually been in the same place at the same time.
I love being unemployed. I love it.
Well, and you're in for the holidays, so.
I am here for the holidays. Back home in old Indiana State.
Yep.
This place hates me and I love it.
Oh my god. Anyway.
I'm an outlaw.
I'm an outlaw. Oh my god.
But yeah, Aaron's cats are real cute. Fat.
Oh yeah, and they're actually getting used to Iz, so that's been fun.
I got to pet one of them today.
Yeah.
It was
Baby
Pippin. See, Aaron put a picture of Pippin up on the Instagram.
I should. Yeah, I'll put a picture up. So if you go to our Instagram at Cats and Books Pod, you'll see a picture of Pippin.
Yes, and my cats are being kitty sat by partner Chuck and roommate Gray. Shout out. they are keeping them entertained and fed and watered and pooped. And they're just kind of lying around and bothering them because I'm not there to bother. So they're getting their extra special kitty time. And I think that's it. So thanks for joining us, and hope to see you all next time. Don't forget to check out our Instagram at Cats and Books Pod, and then we have a Patreon that we haven't put anything on really, so don't worry about that yet. But it is there in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Etc. And we have a YouTube channel, which you may be listening to this on, and we also have a Spotify. We're supposed to have other stuff, and I haven't checked to see if it's shown up there, so whatever. Anyway, thanks again. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.